And thank you for joining us. And Joseph, thanks so much for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And just a few questions. You know, the energy industry faces an array of challenges right now. We're dealing with the need for massive transmission investment. We're trying to integrate renewables into the grid. We're trying to build up clean coal and nuclear generation. At the same time, new technologies and businesses are rapidly emerging and getting established. In your opinion, what are the major challenges, threats, and opportunities facing the power industry from these game-changing developments?
Well, I think the single biggest challenge that the energy industry has, and we'll talk about electric industry, is that clearly we've got to get a vision of what the future is going to look like. And we need to have an understanding of what role some of these new technologies are going to play. And we also have to face the realities that we're talking about things that, while they may be game changers, implementation on a broad scale basis will take decades to do. And the other fact is that we need to be very careful to build optionality into our future. There is no one technology, and I think everybody agrees to this today, that there is no one single technology is the, quote, silver bullet going to solve everything. So from my vantage point in the area that I do my work is that, you know, the one key element that makes all of these things work and integrate is a high voltage, robust electric transmission grid. And ironically, we've been tasked by Congress to do that since 1992. And we're just not moving forward in a way that will allow these emerging technologies to really make an impact as they should.
And what can Congress and the Obama administration and the federal regulators do to help tackle these enormous tasks ahead?
Well, I think clearly the thing that I have repeatedly said, and I think it's echoed by many, but I think all of us have come to a reality that we probably are not going to see what we need. And at the top of the list for us, of course, is that we need a national energy policy. A national energy policy gives us all something now to start to plan for. You know, if you make an analogy like the auto industry, they said, look, we're going to have safety standards in the cars for airbags or for shoulder restraints. They didn't design the car. They said, this is how the car has to perform. It has to meet these emission standards. That's policy. It has to have this CAFE standard. That's a policy. We need those policies. We absolutely need them because right now it really truly looks like camp run amok. In addition to that, you know, from the transmission side, we need a national policy on how we're going to pay for this. We need something that looks really a lot like the interstate highway system. If we would have had the debates today that we're having on building a high voltage electric transmission grid, on building an interstate highway system, we wouldn't have an interstate highway system. We would still be literally going across this country in a form that I can't imagine. And then last but not least is when you start to cross from state to state to build any kind of transmission grid, every state has their own siting laws, and they are as different as day as night. And you can't have individual states holding up things that really the company needs as a policy. So we need to get real about this like we did with the gas pipelines, that we need to have a federal backstop siting authority placed at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission so that we can move on with this.
How has the economic downturn affected the power industry and its ability to keep the lights on in an affordable manner that's socially acceptable?
Well, in a perverse way, it's actually helped it. The reason that it's helped it in a perverse way, of course, is the fact that electric demand has dropped because manufacturing is literally almost at an all-time low from recent history. Mm-hmm. So when I look at states like Michigan, where the vast majority of our assets are located, that state is seeing load that is more analogous to 1992 to 1993. So we've lost about 20 years of load growth with the downturn in the economy. A lot of houses are foreclosed on. And this is now nationwide. If you look to Florida and other states, even Texas, which was very insulated from this economic downturn, they've seen a dip. And so for utilities that weren't able to keep up with the rising demand, they've kind of gotten a breather. But assume that we get a return of the economy, assume that we start to change our transportation mode to more electric vehicles, this will have an impact. And by the way, you know, our infrastructure is truly old in this country. We have really, really utilized it. Power plants on average, especially coal plants, are about, on average across the country, over 40 years old. So we've got a lot of issues in front of us.
You know, as part of its economic stimulus efforts, the federal government spent billions of dollars on smart grid endeavors and R&D and energy efficiency. In your opinion, have those investments been making a difference?
They've certainly elevated the attention that people give to these things. But I would say this, that we are spending a lot of money thinking about things whose reality are not going to have a huge impact on us for years to come. They are game changers, like we talked about, you know, 10, 15 years out. What we really need to do is get focused again on where that policy is, the steps we need to get from point A to point B. This is not unlike anyone, you know, simply saying, getting ready to take a vacation. You know, it's really exciting to talk about, you know, taking a helicopter ride down into the volcano, but before you do that, you better plan your airline fares, you better get your motel lined up, and all the things that are not as exciting. Because once we plan the trip, then we can take the rest of the pieces in place. And I wish that what we had is a more focus on the things that we need to do right now to move us forward to where we need to be, and we need to get that policy of where we need to be, but we need to put a focus on the things we need to do now to prepare us for where we're going to be. Because we can have all the great technology, demand response, smart grid, but as you free up capacity, you still have to be able to move it. If you want to have more renewables, you have to get it to the load center. As we migrate away from the old, antiquated power plants that we had, and we start to move to what I believe is the future in coal, is to more mine-mouth, clean coal technology plants, that reconfigures the grid totally. And we have to be able to think about things like the interstate highway system and how that was laid out. And then as things emerged along the way, we put entrance and exit ramps in. And that's how we have to look at this. And I really wish they'd put their money on things that we could get done and make a difference now. And yeah, keep the technology ball rolling. We've got to stay in the R&D world, but the difference would be if we put it into things we need now.
Well, Joseph, I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
Thank you.